What's up, Broadway HD? I'm reviewing another one of your films, even though you won't answer my email about audio description. Cool, cool. All right, this is Allegiance. It's really important. I'm not even going to beg you guys or say anything at the top of the video. I just want to talk about Allegiance. It does not have audio description, and yes, I'm continuing to review stuff on Broadway HD in hopes that one day they will notice and let's get some audio description on a service that has it on two titles: Phantom of the Opera and Romeo and Juliet. That's it. And they didn't even acknowledge that. I had a friend reach out to them on an official capacity. And at first they're like, we don't have audio description. And then he was like, I think you have audio description on these titles. And they were like, oh, yes, we do. But only those titles. It's like, why wouldn't you at least tell people you have it on those two titles? Anyway, Allegiance is so timely and so important. And I earlier this week I had the opportunity to watch and review Oppenheimer, and when I came around to, it's time to watch my weekly Broadway HD title and review it, I decided on Allegiance. I had seen it on the service before, and it felt so important and so like, God, this has to be. We have to talk about this right now. So it's a beautiful musical. It's inspired based on George Takei's personal stories of growing up inside of a Japanese internment camp on U.S. soil. It's this part of history, and it's a part of history that we are so on such shaky ground with. Are we going to continue to teach this? There's so many, not to get too political here, but there's so many things that we're trying to manipulate and take out of history because we're incredibly fragile. And if we teach kids certain things, if they learn certain things that America didn't do so great, poor decision making from the past, then I guess somehow that's construed as being woke or bad or something like that. History is history. It just is history. That's what it is. It's not interpretive history. The thing is that it happened so long ago that we've been able to study it for so many years. There are people still alive who are in this, who can tell you, this is where I was, this is what happened, this is what it looked like, this wasn't that long ago. And people like George Takei, and that's how a musical like Allegiance gets made. It seems like one of those musicals that is a weird thing to say, this is a musical. But sometimes musicals are able to tell complicated stories in ways that are more palatable for the audience and convey the message, the very important message, to an audience that wouldn't otherwise consume the message. And Allegiance does that brilliantly, the same way like the Scottsboro Boys or Parade would. And this production is with the original Broadway cast, which includes Takei, Lea Salonga, Teddy Leung, and the rest of the amazing ensemble. This is one of those shows that's really hard to produce locally because, if we're being honest, only certain communities are going to have this kind of cast to be able to make this project work. To be able to have such a large Asian American cast to be able to pull off this production of great singers who can do this production. It's the kind of thing that you would get a regional theater that has the funding to be able to pay people to come in, traveling artists. Otherwise, it's not really going to be done a whole lot, which is such a shame, because I don't want this story to disappear. I don't want it to go away. I think Allegiance is so nuanced in many different forms. The music is beautiful. Lea Salonga has a beautiful voice. For anybody who has never heard her sing, my God, there's a reason why she's been around as long as she has, is because her voice is gorgeous. Teddy Leung actually has a really nice voice. George Takei is of an age where I feel like grading his vocal work is just unfair. You know what I'm saying? Like, most people wouldn't expect somebody at his age to be professionally singing, but he adds so much as an actor to the scenes in which that he's in that it kind of makes up for singing. Um, and this film really is about story anyway. It's about the Japanese community on the West Coast that is, you know, after Pearl Harbor, um, our beloved FDR, I gotta call it out. You know, I mean, not all people who make shitty decisions are all on one side of the aisle. Sometimes people think they're making a good decision and they're not. He decided to make an act that rounded up all of the Japanese and put them in what he called relocation camps. Basically, we were fighting a war with Germans who were putting all of the Jews into relocation camps. That was their fancy word for them. So we were like, hey, why don't we do the same thing that we're saying is really bad for the Germans to be doing? Why don't we join them? And we'll do it to Japanese people instead. It's kind of a really dark moment in our history. It's like probably like the second, third, depending on I don't think that we didn't we didn't burn a lot of people. So we've got like slavery, and then below that is probably like what we did to the indigenous tribes in this country, somewhere around near those two. And then right below that is our decision to go, hey, let's round up all the people who look Japanese and we'll put them in internment camps. And it's I hope it's something that we continue to teach our kids, because if not, history's so doomed to repeat itself. And I think, well, people are watching Oppenheimer right now and they're seeing sort of how how dangerous it was, and everything that was felt back then and how it speaks to them now. And I think that's why it's resonating so hard. I think a musical like Allegiance resonates in that same way. A group of people who, were deemed to be the problem, to be the to be less than, to be un-American, were being rounded up and put into camps. You know who's currently kind of locked up behind bars? We have a whole bunch of Latinx population currently locked up in these immigration camps along the border. It's not quite the same because they hadn't quite made it to America, but we seem to really be desensitized to the idea that these people are in this situation. And there was a period in time where we took all the Japanese people out of their homes. They lost their property, they lost their houses and their farms and their goods, and they became less than people. Just because some other people who, were still over in Japan, who they may not have known or had any connection to, decided to make a terrible decision. The story represents so many different characters between people who, the elder Japanese generation that still is trying to honor their heritage and their traditions over here in America, while the newer, younger generation, there's the main character here, Sam. He really wants to fight for America. He thinks that's the way to show people, is to fight for America and to join up and to sort of become tokenism. He becomes the essential tokenism. They let him enlist, and to try to show the rest of America that everything is just fine. They use him a lot in speeches, and he's on the cover of Life magazine, kind of making it sound like what's going on at the camps is fine, but everything that we see about going on at the camps throughout the course of the musical is decidedly not fine. There's even a character that is drafted while he's in the camps, while his family's in the camps. America's like, hey, we're going to draft you out of this prison to go fight for us, which is so asinine when you really put it into context. And he's like, I'm not going to go fight while my family is in this prison, essentially this prison. And he burns his draft card. So it tells that story too, of what that's like. How can you expect me to fight for America when America's doing this to my family? So there's a character that means something to every different part of the story, and they're all telling their own different things. Yes, there are white people in this, and yes, they're not all presented as bad. There's a nice nurse that is really trying to help out, and she has a very nice duet that is actually it's a beautiful duet with her and Lea Salonga, um, and it's one of the many great songs in the show. And then you also have the douchebag soldiers who are walking around and making, terrible life choices. So it's such a combination, and it's all these stories that converge, and they kind of rotate around each other, and they tell all these different stories, and they go off and fight to battle, and some people stay at home, and they have different experiences, and one of the old men is taken off because he refuses to fill out a questionnaire in a certain way, because he will not dishonor his Japanese heritage that way. It's about not breaking. Allegiance is used in so many different fashions in terms of this film to mean allegiance to who you are, your heritage, allegiance to your family, allegiance even to yourself and your own ideals, allegiance to America. It's allegiance to so many different things. It's such a nuanced musical, and it's so important. And for everybody watching Oppenheimer right now, if you have the opportunity to watch a production of Allegiance, I would strongly suggest it, because while we're talking about this period in time, I think it's very important that we also talk about this, that we continue to talk about this. I live in a state that's trying to literally teach people that slavery was good. And I fear that one day that curriculum is going to change to teach people that it was good that we put people in these camps, that we taught them skills. You know what I'm saying? And the white people were in the camps too. The things the things that could possibly be changed and altered in history to try to just whitewash what happened and what we did to Americans on American soil, it's widespread, and that's why these stories are so important to be told and to be kept and to be put out there for everybody to see and understand now, before they get lost, before the stories get rewritten, and before they get changed, before they get erased. So I love Allegiance. The music is fantastic. It's a beautiful story. It is not a long musical. It's about 2 hours. I would absolutely prefer for this to have audio description. There are especially like the scenes where we're at war and sort of in combat sequences. I would love to know how they actually staged that. That would be ideal for me. Would have been to get some staging notes on how did they bring in it, how did they make that different from the camps? Where did the camp go? Where did it go? And they do make some major scenery shifts. I think this is probably a really rich staging in terms of being able to balance not only the coldness of the camp, but also the little attempts at bringing whatever little culture they can. There's a scene where they're just trying to hang some wind chimes up, and like the soldiers like, take that shit down. It's like, they're fucking wind chimes, dude. Like, what? Like, what do you think the wind chimes are gonna do? Yeah, this is so important, so timely. Please see this. It's rare that I'm probably never going to give Broadway HG a pass on anything where I'm actually not just going to grade this film, but actually recommend this film. And it's because it's the only thing of its kind out there. There is no other Japanese internment camp musical of its kind out there. And it's such an important part of our history for people to still learn. And if you have a kid that likes music theater, have them listen to this, have them get in the story. And you could listen to the cast album, but then you'd be missing the stories, the individual stories of these people and how they evolve over the course of the musical. Sam in particular, because he's the first character we're introduced to, and the character we're left with. And everything that happens over the run of the musical that changes and shapes these characters and puts them into who they are, and the things we say that we can never take back, and all of those different things. This is such an impactful musical. I'm really surprised it didn't do better with Tony Awards or anything like that, but at least it's available for people to watch on Broadway HD. I wish this was anywhere else. I wish this was everywhere right now. I wish this was licensed to Netflix. I think this should be something that everybody can watch right now. Because I think after Oppenheimer, this is the kind of thing that people are looking for, and they can't find it unless they're on Broadway HD. So I'm going to unequivocally give Allegiance an A. Yes, it does not have audio description, and I could really hammer this film, this production, if I wanted to. I do not. Unfortunately, I also live in a world in which, again, I feel like history is being dangerously rewritten, and it is imperative that while we have what we have, that we learn what we learn, so that we can still pass down to the next generation, whether through schools or simply word of mouth, what really happened. So thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and I really want to continue to talk about audio description, and I'm close to 200. I'm getting close to 200. I'm not that close to. I think I can hit 200 this year, so please subscribe. I also have a website, macthemovieguy.com. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or Threads at macthemovieguy. You can go to the audio description project, adp.acb.org. It'll let you know what has audio description, where you can watch it. And you can go to the ADNA.org, that's the ADNA.org, and it'll let you know who is narrating when something actually has narration, which means you're unlikely to find anything from Broadway HD on there. Oh, Broadway HD, you scamp. Anyway, also I'm still pushing the Describe It To Me challenge, where if you could try to get another film YouTuber to also start talking about audio description, just comment and be like, hey, I really love your stuff. It'd be really great as a member of the blind and visually impaired community if you could review a film with audio description, see what it's like. Get that out there in the world so that way, we can get more of it. Let them know that really it's such a small portion of films that actually have it, because I think somebody who does nothing but watch film every day and review film every day, if you told them all of a sudden that, oh, all of these films are no longer accessible to you, I think that would get them, I think if these movie critics woke up tomorrow blind, they'd be like, what in the holy hell just happened with my life? So half their DVD collection is inaccessible. So yeah, it's important. So I will review something else for you guys and see you on the other side.